This is a call for vengeance. Welcome to today's show. This is an important one once again about the Satanic Temple. I've covered it over the years. The Satanic Temple is a government intel op that is being run. The whole purpose of this is to eliminate Christianity. It is not to impose Satanism on our society, because they're already imposing Satanism on our society with all the things that they're allowing and people are accepting and the way people are behaving. That's how they're promoting it. The whole purpose of them going out there and doing what I'm about to show you, I've covered 50,000 times over and I'll continue to cover, is to make people very, very angry and then have to make a decision about what religious freedom is. Because remember, in a globalist New World Order, there's one religion, okay? There is one religion, which means all religions have to crumble. And the only way they can make religions crumble and for people to stop having religious rights is to make people want to remove religious rights, right? So the Satanic Temple shows up wherever the Christian people pretty much are on public grounds, as far as school grounds, etc., right? That's why they do the after-school Satan. Yes, they want to indoctrinate your children with Satanism, but people don't realize they don't need to have them in a classroom to do it, because the television is doing it for them. The mainstream media is doing it for them. The ideologies that celebrities are pushing are indoctrinating them with the occult practices. I've covered this over the years. They've normalized it over and over again. All these little things that I break down, even these little idiotic TikTok challenge type things, are occult rituals that they're normalizing. There's tie-ins to all of it. So let me cover this with the Satanic Temple, because once again, they've put up their holiday display. So if you're a longtime sub, if there aren't many left, you probably remember I covered this back in 2016, even though I'm a new YouTuber. And why I covered it then was the same reason I'm covering it now. To show you what they're trying to do. They're trying to bring attention to this so that they can not only gaslight Christians, but also so that they can make Christians they either have a choice, accept the satanic crap or restructure what our religious freedoms are. Religious freedoms don't really exist anymore for Christians. That's very, very clear. And they're going to give Christians an ultimatum. You want your Christian ideologies around, then you're going to have to accept satanic ones. Now, in the past, what normally occurred was that Satanists and witches were taking care of the old-fashioned way, private justice. They weren't allowed to have a debate. And that's the way it really should be. But in today's society, of course, we have to accept all this insanity while they take away the rights of free speech for people like me and you. So they brought this up to Ron DeSantis, who is obviously, as we all know, a puppet for Bagelville. That's what DeSantis is. They brought up how the Satanic Temple holiday display on national television, which is pretty big because they don't cover the Satanic Temple too often on national TV, and I'll go into more detail in a second. Here's how he responded with talking about the tax exemption, which I covered years ago, where he blames it on Donald Trump. Is there truth to that? Well, of course, because they're all Satanists. But really the truth is that Obama sped up the tax exemption for them so that that could be out there and they could use that as an excuse, et cetera, to make people angry. But it's really a government agency pretending to be a 501c3. It is a government agency. That's what the Satanic Temple is. Here's DeSantis on national TV talking about it.
Welcome back to CNN's Republican Presidential Town Hall with Governor Ron DeSantis. We're here in beautiful Des Moines. I want to talk to you about a topic. I don't know how much people out there outside of Iowa know about this, but it is dominating the local news here in Iowa. Republicans are divided over a new Satanic Temple holiday display in the state capitol building. Governor Kim Reynolds, who has endorsed you, she says it is, quote, absolutely objectionable, but, quote, in a free society, the best response to objectionable speech is more speech, unquote. Some Republicans are calling for it to come down. What do you think? Should that display be allowed in the Capitol?
So it's interesting. I heard this, and then I was like, well, how did it get there? Is that even a religion? And lo and behold, the Trump administration gave them approval to be under the IRS as a religion. So that gave them the legal ability to potentially do it. So I don't know what the legislature, how they analyzed it, but it very well may be because of that ruling under Donald Trump that they may have had a legal leg to stand on. My view would be that's not a religion that the founding fathers were trying to create. But I do think that IRS ruling, I was really surprised to see that they did that.
So just not correcting you, but just the context of that is the Satanic Temple applied for tax-exempt status, and the IRS did grant it in 2019. That doesn't necessarily mean the government supports it, but they did grant it.
No, yeah, exactly. But they recognized it as a religion because otherwise you wouldn't have been able to do it. I don't think that was the right decision. As a religion, that's wrong.
But you think they should take it down in the Capitol?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think if they're going to get sued on it, I think you fight that fight. But I think it may be, and I don't know how the legislature analyzed it. It very well may be because of that ruling, they feel that they may lose. So I don't know what they did to do it. But yeah, I don't in Florida. I don't think we probably would have had it up.
Okay, so for those of you that don't know, DeSantis is talking about this one I'm about to play for you. Every year, the satanic temples, which are set up all around this country, put up satanic monuments. They go to town halls or any places that have a Christmas tree. The Christmas tree itself is a pagan symbol. Doesn't mean if you have one in your home, I'm not going to get on you about having a tree. We're far beyond that kind of stuff, okay, with what's going on in the world. The clock is ticking, okay? But we have to be careful of stuff like this and how we respond to it. Because when they try to gaslight you into this, you don't realize what they're trying to do is remove the Bible. That's what ultimately this is about. Because when they start putting the satanic Bible into places where you say, wait a minute, we can't have that there. These books that teach this or that about the devil, well, then they're going to say, well, you're going to have to remove your Bible then. And ultimately what they want is Christianity wiped off the face of the earth. So they're using the satanic temple as a front. You will see the satanic temple head in there, what I used to call Pigman Eye, who continually, this guy's a homeowner, doesn't have a job, went to Harvard, of course, Ivy League, was groomed there, but was groomed well before there, which I've covered. If you follow anything on that guy, you could go back to Boys Town in Omaha and how he was grooming and recruiting for a lot of these bigwigs out there in your government who you find on that island out in the middle of nowhere. So I won't go into more detail because I'm having a tough time being able to speak on here. But here's a clip from a local news station talking about, again, year after year, the controversial symbol.
If you are visiting the Iowa State House over the next couple of weeks, you will see this in the rotunda. It's a holiday display put up by the Satanic Temple. KCCI's Bo Bowman went to the State House today to find out more about it.
The supporters of this group say if there could be a Christmas tree here in the Capitol, then they can display this put on by the Iowa Satanic Temple.
We're going to really relish the opportunity to be represented in a public forum. We don't have a church on every street corner.
Lucian Greaves, co-founder of the Satanic Temple, says this satanic display is a symbol for their right of religious freedom. He says if you don't like it, don't look at it.
My feeling is that if people don't like our displays in public forums, they don't have to engage with them. They don't have to view them.
It's a very dark, evil force. And I truly hope people know how to battle that.
Shelley Flockhart from Dallas Center says she was shocked to see it at the Capitol.
Okay, come on in.
Flockhart organized a prayer group on Wednesday around the Christmas tree in the center of the rotunda to oppose the satanic display near the stairwell. She calls it dark and evil and says Christians should spiritually fight against it.
One, I hope people realize spiritual warfare is real, that there are evil, satanic forces that are trying to infiltrate our state.
I'm told the altar here will be on display at the State House for 14 days.
So some of you might hear me speaking and being like, why isn't he mad about it? Well, of course I'm mad about it, because this shouldn't even be a debate. This stuff shouldn't even be allowed to exist. Satanists should not be given any freedoms at all. They never were throughout history for a reason, because of the stuff they're doing right now openly and getting away with and gaslighting everybody into. So there's not a debate to be had about it, okay? But we have to realize when you're being played, they're doing this for a reason. And it's not to troll Christians. It's to put Christians in a situation, in a predicament where they're actually going to have to decide about religious freedoms and religious rights, because it's going to be removed. And that's what the Satanic Temple's purpose is. It's going to put Christians in a spot where Christians are going to have to say, are we going to allow to have this pagan tree here? Well, we have the pagan tree here. Well, okay, well, we're allowed to have a nativity here. Well, the nativity, you see that outside of a lot of places. They want to put their satanic stuff next to the nativity. And Christians are going to get mad about it, of course. But they're going to be given legal. It's going to get legal. That's what happens here. The Satanists end up suing, and they end up making it a point where they go, well, if they're allowed to be here, we're allowed to be here. And it doesn't go into detail about, well, let's look about what the Satanic Church and all these satanic temples are, really, because it's a pseudo, it's a front. All the stuff they claim to do is not who they really are. Okay, they pretend that they're a group that's a proactive group that cares about humans and love and tolerance, all the stuff I've covered over the years that are really about Antichrist worship that Christians get duped into. It's unbelievable that they buy it at this point. And what's more unbelievable is that people actually believe the Satanists when they say Hail Satan. They use all the satanic signs and symbols, the sigils that are used in Satanism, the alchemy, etc., and they still are allowed to get away with saying they're not Satanists, right? because they want you to just think it's all, cosplay. That's what they want you to think this is. And these idiots out there actually believe it. They just like to dress up. Yeah, it's a big cosplay. They worship the devil. It's cosplay. They're having fun. They're trolling Christians. It's a government op. It's untouchable. The Satanic Temple is untouchable. Okay, you can't do anything to them. They will sue you into the ground if you do, and that's done by design, because who are these pro bono lawyers that are defending them here and there, left and right? You ever see somebody who has, if we all had lawyers on retainer pro bono, we'd all be suing big tech and all these other things who are literally taking away our freedoms on a day in and day out basis. It's part of the show, the facade of them constantly going to court for women's rights and these rights, and they're pumping and propping them up as, patriots. This is what the new patriot looks like, believe it or not, in this insane upside down we live in. Satanists, because everybody looks at them as, being activists for free speech and activists for women's rights, and it's not. It's all just a ruse, okay? So what we're seeing here is what happens every year, and the reaction is the same every year, right? The politicians, of course, and the fake alt-right media, which now covers this, like to come out of the woodwork because they like to gaslight their audience into, whether it's some type of an extremist false flag that could come around these events, or to pretty much, say, all right, legally we have to accept this, or we need to start removing Bibles from schools. Not that they're there now, but that's the whole after-school Satan program that we see, right? The after-school Satan program is there so that any type of after-school program that's independent of the school where kids are getting together to read the Bible, they want removed. They want to give you an ultimatum. Let us be here and we'll groom your kids. And honestly, what they do is gateway grooming, which I've covered. So things like all these things that parents let their kids do anyway are the things that they do. They're all gateways. Dungeons and Dragons, these television shows, magic, Disney, the Magic Kingdom. All these things are gateways to the occult. So all they do is do stuff like that, so it looks like that they don't really do satanic practice, because if people really knew what they did, there wouldn't be a discussion about their freedoms. There wouldn't be trials to be had about innocence or guilt. There would be mass, you-know-whats of all these people, because history has shown us that has occurred, and the Bible even mentions something about, allowing certain things to live that, practice this type of stuff. So I saw Alex Jones, a lot of COINTELPRO covering it. Of course, is a good way to lure your audience in, because this is the type of thing that should make you mad. I'm not saying I'm not mad, but you have to read the underlying stuff here, because there's agendas behind this stuff, and it's not just to piss you off and troll you. So even Forbes is the first time I've seen Forbes cover this, at least to my recollection, has an article, why a satanic holiday display in Iowa at an Iowa Capitol building has been allowed to stay up despite backlash. They say the Satanic Temple of Iowa put up a holiday display in the Iowa Capitol building, igniting outrage from religious groups and fierce debate over free speech. But state officials claim the display followed all regulations and have allowed it to remain in place. The key facts: the display features a mannequin resembling the pagan idol Baphomet. Don't even get me started on the Baphomet. With a ram's head coated in mirrors. Of course, the mirrors are used in witchcraft, right? People don't even realize that, why these celebrities constantly use mirrors, right? And they also broken, shattered glass representing altars and MK Ultra. This stuff is just so easy to see. They always use the same stuff. That's why I break it down, which is why I'm constantly thrown around and censored. But no coincidence they use mirrors. I mean, mirrors are even used in movies. They show mirrors during witchcraft rituals, which of course summon spirits and entities that people apparently don't believe in, but then, believe in. But, only they believe in ghosts and ghost stories and all that stuff. But then when you talk about witchcraft, like, that's make-believe. So go figure with how stupid people are. It's not really stupidity. It's a matter of not being able to accept it. It's too much for them to comprehend. They'd rather just hide and play with their toys, which is what people do when they're overwhelmed and can't grow up and become adults. If we all grew up and were acting as adults, then we wouldn't be allowing this to occur. There is no dialogue to be had. There is nothing with Ron DeSantis and all these other alt-right guys. There's no conversation to be had. If you actually know what Satanists do, the crimes that they actually commit, there's no debating if they should be allowed or not. They shouldn't be allowed to walk freely in our society because of what they actually do, which of course our government and all of the police and all the fraternal Masonic organizations called the police all cover up for them and call it satanic panic. So anyway, off of my rant here. So they say that the 7 fundamental tenets of the Satanic Temple, including its belief in the freedom to offend, and the group has a long history of pushing for freedom of religion and speech in public places. Of course, they believe in free speech. And what I want to also note from Mr. Pigman Eye there in the video clip that you just saw from the news, he liked to say, if you don't like our statue, just don't look at it. Well, that's my motto. Go figure, right? So if you don't like what I have to say, then don't listen, right? But what they do is they remove the speech of people who expose what they do, and they say it's hateful for exposing them, showing the signs and symbols because it'll actually wake you up. So they're all hypocrites and liars. He sits there and he says, if you don't like it, don't look at it. Why would I look at it? It makes me sick. I mean, I might use it as a toilet, but other than that, I'm not going to look at it. But the problem with that statement is that these people who are supposedly advocates for free speech have removed our speech. Okay? So what they should be saying is, if you don't like somebody like this guy on YouTube, just turn it off. Instead, what they do is they rally around, they harass to get people canceled. Because, of course, without canceling people, they'd be exposed, and then the same thing that's happened to them throughout human history would happen again. And that's what we really need to have happen if we want to have a real great reset, right? So they say it's one of several displays that have been erected in the Capitol building to celebrate the holidays. The display has sparked outrage, prompted public prayer at the State Building. The Departments of Administration Service approves of all holiday displays while it offers guidelines. It does not discriminate on the basis of religion. And of course, a lot of Christians, again, are not aware of Saturnalia. They're not aware of the true origins of Christmas. They think it's Jesus' birthday, which, it's not. I mean, it's clearly not. Okay, we all know that it's not if you actually study this stuff. But they do, so again, they feel like they're getting trolled here. But they don't realize what they're really trying to do. In a statement, the Satanic Temple wrote, "It's proud to participate in the holiday festivities at the Capitol and thanks state officials for holding fast to the principle of religious freedom." Right? And then, of course, they go on to lecture us on ways, and of course, how the tenets work and how the Satanists don't really worship the devil, right? They claim to be divorced from superstition, right? So they say it's all superstition. Then they walk in the room and they go, "Hail Satan," and they wear pentagrams, which are linked to satanic rituals and sacrifice, et cetera, but it's cosplay. That's what I'm going to start calling it. Because to them, it's cosplay. And then the society we live in is so dumb that they literally believe it's cosplay. And that's why the government expedited their 501c3 to make them, and making them tax exempt. Because, of course, they want you to think it's really a religious group when it's really a government agency. That's what they are. And, of course, that doesn't mean that everybody who's signed up and a part of it is a part of the government, because they're not. They're just really weak people who are looking to fit in and think they're being rebels when, in fact, they're conforming to what the government wants. Everything's inverted, right? You ever see these people? They think they're rebelling against the government and things like that by wearing black lipstick and being God. You're going along with what society's saying. They think that we're the norm of, and the bully, etc. It's really insane how they've convinced them of this. But nonetheless, the people who do sign up don't have a clue. They're looking to fit in, but that's what they want. Weak-minded people so that they can start influencing them. And then, of course, it becomes a gateway into actually practicing black magic and the occult, joining Freemasonry and secret societies, and learning all this stuff that they learn, which is that they're the gods. Lucifer's the god of the world, and of course, they're gods among us who are here to control us and rule over us. So we see where all this is headed. It's funny. I mean, in some ways, you see a lot of the alt-right cover this because it does help them get, it builds up rapport with their audience. It's like what we see with Tucker and Alex Jones. And that's really important to them, is to try to build their following up that way. So I'll continue to cover these topics as I see them. But it's important to note, this is not the first time. It'll not be the last time. And eventually this stuff has to happen because they have to remove religious freedom. Okay, the whole Constitution, the whole Bill of Rights are getting abolished. That's part of the globalist, artificial intelligence governance state. There are none of this stuff exists anymore. And your speech is going to be coded via what you say, via algorithms reading it like we see now on the internet. So all of it gets torn down. And Christians are eventually going to get to a point where they have to say, well, are we going to let this in our society, or are we just going to kind of, have the Bible removed? Because if the Bible's going to be there, then the satanic Bible has to be there too. And Christians will have to make a choice to and they really shouldn't be making a choice because this isn't a real religion. This is what they call a cult, but it's more than a cult. Okay, this is actually a crime organization is what they are, because they're involved in some of the most wicked, disgusting acts you could possibly imagine. And that's stuff I cover over on the website, uprisingrevival.com. At the moment, I am covering it in deep dive. Even the Finders stuff that I've covered in the past, I'm putting back up over there, redoing a lot of it so you could see it. For a lot of you that are new, I recommend you join. It's $2.99 a month. Your mind will be blown if you learn some of the stuff that they won't let you hear on YouTube. I'll tell you that. I thank you guys for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you as always, and your families.